Hello, and welcome to the Colorado Health Foundation's Grantee Orientation webinar. My name is Amy Latham, and I'm the Vice President of Philanthropy here at the Foundation. Let's go ahead and get started with our agenda. I'll begin with a brief introduction to the Foundation and describe how we work with our grantee partners. Next, Sarah Guillaume, Senior Director of Grant-Making Operations, will follow with important information on grant agreements and amendments and the grant reporting process. Finally, Taryn Fort, our Senior Director of Communications, will provide some communications resources. At the Foundation, we're guided by the belief that health is a basic human right. We're bringing health in reach for all Coloradans by engaging closely with communities across the state and working through investing, policy advocacy, learning, and capacity building. I want to highlight these three cornerstones that really provide the foundation upon which all of our work is built. First, we serve Coloradans who are low income and or who have historically had less power or privilege. We are informed by the communities and those we exist to serve. And finally, everything we do is with the intent of creating health. Our organizational strategy is designed with equity at the heart of our work. Why? We know that lack of opportunity, poverty, and racism are key drivers of health challenges experienced by Coloradans, their families, and communities across the state. Because of this, we believe it's essential that every step we take is designed to create fair opportunities for all. I want to talk a little bit about how we work together with our grantee partners. First, we believe that communication is absolutely key to a good relationship. Your primary contact here at the Foundation is your program officer, sometimes called PO for short. Your program officer will be in contact with you at least once per year, either over the phone or more likely in person. We love and welcome the sharing of good news from our grantee partners. We also really welcome the opportunity to learn about what's not going as planned with your grant. We ask you to really create open and honest lines of communication with us at every important juncture in our relationship. We also ask that you alert us to key staff changes just so that we can make sure that our communications are going to the right people at your organization. Finally, I want to note that we may call on you on occasion to share your expertise with us or with another organization that are either related to or perhaps even outside the parameters of your specific grant. We may also offer to connect you with organizations doing similar work, maybe who could learn from your work or who we think you might be able to learn from. We also just want to emphasize that we think these are important ways to increase our impact together, but these are opportunities that we present to you and certainly not considered mandatory collaboration. If your program officer with the Foundation should change over the course of your grant, you'll receive a call or email from us to introduce you to the new program officer. Generally, we'll schedule a meeting or a call. And you will receive a letter from the Foundation with complete contact information for your new program officer. Of course, should you forget who your program officer is, or if the program officer has changed and you just need to double check, this map on our website is interactive. You can click on the county in which your organization is based, and you can see the program officers who work in that area. The Foundation, it's really important for us to understand how we're doing when it comes to building strong grantee relationships. To that end, we on a regular basis survey our grantees and ask for input and feedback about how we're doing. We completed a grantee perception survey in 2015. We heard from 259 of our grantees from across the state working in a variety of areas. The survey results really helped us understand what we're doing well and where we could change our practices and improve our practices to have stronger relationships. We take these results to heart, and they really guide our approach to how we strengthen our relationships with grantees. A couple of guiding principles that I want to share with you. When you submit reports to the foundation, we want you to know that we read those reports and we use the information that you provide to us to help us understand your work, your impact, and to help inform and guide our future work. We commit to providing a response to grantee reports within 60 days of receiving the report. We may have questions for you about what you submitted. We may have comments or ideas that we also want to share with you. We commit to responding to your email or phone inquiries within 1 business day. If we're out of the office, we'll send you a notification that we are out of the office with a date that you can expect a response. And finally, we do have multiple program officers, lots of folks working out in communities. We really strive to coordinate internally to make things easy for you. And we commit to working together internally to just streamline our communications with you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Guillaume to talk about the grant agreement and amendments and reporting process.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, I'm Sarah Guillaume, Senior Director of Grant Making Operations here at the Foundation. Let's take a few minutes to talk about the Foundation's grant agreements and amendment process. So the Foundation uses both an online grant application and an online reporting system, which is called Flux. You can register for Flux if you haven't already on the Foundation's website. We find there to be a lot of benefits to using an online grant reporting system, which includes a minimization of the use of paper. It provides consistency for us, and it also is aligned with the application process that you hopefully went through when you first asked the Foundation for funding for your grant project. We require that all grantees submit reports, and some grantees may have additional requirements. You should refer to your grant agreement for details about your reporting schedule, and note that you'll receive an email reminder about 30 days prior to the requirement being due. We have several resources on our website designed to help you complete your online report. You'll find a sample report guide, frequently asked questions, as well as this webinar and other information. With all that said, however, please don't hesitate to reach out to me directly or email us at grants@coloradohealth.org if you have any questions as you complete your report. I'd like to take a minute just to walk through a few key pieces of information that you'll find within your grant agreement. For contact information on the agreement, you'll see what we've listed as a project director contact, as well as a grantee organization primary contact. The project director is the person that will be our point of contact as it relates to the specific project or activity funded by the Foundation. Note that in most cases, payments will be sent to the attention of the project director. The grantee organization primary contact is the person that is the head of your organization. We typically expect that this will be the person that signs the grant agreement itself. On that first page of the agreement, you'll also see the award amount, the term listed in months, as well as the project start and end dates. In addition, you can see the organization name that checks will be made payable to, as well as the address and tax information for that organization. You'll want to be sure that this is accurate, and please contact the Foundation if any information needs to be corrected. Other key information that's contained within the first 1 to 2 pages of your agreement includes the purpose of the project, which is located near the top of your agreement and gives a high-level description of your project. Any contingencies related to your grant, and note that these must typically be fulfilled in order for you to receive a portion or all of your grant funding. Anticipated measurable results and intermediate milestones related to your project. These sections outline the performance and benchmarks that are expected from your grant. We'll discuss these items along with how to report on that information in more detail in just a few minutes. You'll also see your reporting and payment schedule listed on your agreement. We'll send you a reminder again about 30 days before a report is due. We don't consider a report to be received until it's fully complete, so that means including all the required attachments and financial statements and information that's required. Again, we'll cover this information in more detail in just a few minutes. And finally, the approved budget is attached as the last page of your grant agreement, and we expect that you're going to use the grant funds in accordance with that budget for the purposes that are outlined within those first few pages of your agreement. Please read the grant agreement in its entirety, even if you've previously received funding from the Foundation. We do a periodic review of our grant agreement, and at times we'll update particular clauses and information, so it's important to review this document each time you receive a grant. There are 2 sections that we often receive questions about, so let's talk about those in more detail. The first is Section 9, Publicity. Note that the number of these sections could be slightly different in your document, but that header should be the same. So in the publicity section, you'll see that we encourage you to publicize information regarding your grant from the foundation. We do ask that you wait to formally publicize your grant until we have a fully executed grant agreement in place. In a few minutes, Taryn will share more information about how we can partner to communicate your grant. In addition, you'll see that this section states that the foundation may include information about your grant on our website and in our materials. The Section 16 verifies that you have the right to use all intellectual property associated with your project. In addition, we expect that any intellectual property resulting from your grant will be used by your organization to fulfill its charitable purpose. And finally, the foundation will retain a non-exclusive license to the work of your grant. Please contact me or your program officer if you have any questions or concerns regarding the information that's contained within the grant agreement. And if you haven't yet, when you're ready, please sign the agreement and return the entire document to the foundation. This will usually take place electronically via DocuSign. Once we receive it, it's signed by our Vice President of Philanthropy, and then you'll receive an electronic copy back. Once the agreement is fully executed, we will release your first payment, unless that payment is contingent on something else, such as challenge grant documentation or a memorandum of understanding with key partners. For multi-year grants, you can generally expect to receive your payment about 45 days after submitting your progress report. Please note that we do offer the option to electronically release grant funds directly into your organization's designated bank account, rather than sending you a physical check. So now I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about grant amendments, specifically budget revisions and timeline extensions. We'll also talk about how to request an amendment to your grant. It's okay to request an amendment to your grant, and we know that changes may be necessary in order to support your project. So to begin, let's talk about budget revisions. You can find additional information on when you need to request a budget revision in Section 2 of your grant agreement. Generally, you'll need to request a budget revision if you answer yes to all of the following: if the grant is greater than $50,000, if changes to individual line items are greater than 25% of that line item, and if changes to individual line items are greater than $1,000. Be sure to use your approved budget, the one that's included with your agreement, as the basis for your revision request. You do not need to request a revision if you're shifting funds within the same line item. For example, using personnel funds to support 2 part-time positions rather than 1 full-time position. The next type of grant amendment you might request is called a no-cost extension, which may be needed to extend the duration of your grant. We understand that delays may occur, such as a delay in hiring staff that's necessary to implement your funded project. As a result, you may need more time to achieve the expected results of your project. You can again refer generally to Section 2 of your grant agreement for additional details on when to request a no-cost extension. We'll typically choose to grant you an extension to allow you to complete the project as intended, rather than asking you to return funds to the foundation. In order to request an amendment to your grant, log into our Flux Grantee portal. Please do not include your amendment request within the narrative of your progress or final report. The Request an Amendment option in the Grantee portal includes a section to request a budget revision, a no-cost extension, or to describe any other amendment that you might need. Please be sure to provide all requested information, including timeframes, dates, and details for all extensions and revisions. The information will then be reviewed by our grant-making operations staff, as well as with your program officer. We'll contact you if we have any questions or need additional information. If approved, you'll receive an amendment letter from the foundation to append to your grant agreement. The letter will outline any approved changes and modifications to your reporting or payment schedule. So let's shift gears for a moment and spend a few minutes discussing the foundation's reporting requirements in more detail. You will submit progress reports every 12 months during your grant term, and a final report will be due 30 days after the end of your grant. The progress and final report questions are the same. The final report is simply due at the end of the grant term. Again, due dates for your reports are listed within your grant agreement. And progress reports in particular should be submitted on or before the due date listed in your grant agreement for subsequent payments to be released as scheduled. Your program officer will review the report and follow up with you if there are any questions. And we do want to emphasize that these reports are very useful to the foundation. We use the information to learn about your work, and we want to hear from you about both what worked as well as what didn't. In order to complete your progress or final report, we recommend that you use your grant agreement as a guide to outline and write your report. The content of your report should focus on grant progress to date. The questions on the report ask for an update on one or more measurable results, if there are any specified within your grant agreement. We ask that you report on the number of measurable results achieved to date, and in most cases, that's for the 12-month period that report covers. Also, please give us an update on progress on your intermediate milestones. For example, if a milestone was to hire a project director, please report the date of the hire of the new director. A question on the report asks for a description of significant successes and challenges that your organization experienced related to the grant. And then we also ask that you include updated financial statements as well as a budget narrative. Additionally, you'll have the option to include another attachment if you have any other kind of evaluation results that you'd like to share. A short summary of other results is welcome, but certainly not required unless that's a specific milestone of your grant. And again, that would be listed within your agreement. And finally, please report on the actual grant expenses using the budget template that's provided with the report. So here we're looking at a sample report milestone and the type of brief information that we'd like you to see you report on. Please do document the challenges as well as the successes in achieving your milestones. So here you can see that this grant had a milestone to hire a program director by December, but didn't get that position filled into January. This is fine, and it may help explain any deviations in grant performance if the program got a late start. Here again is another sample milestone and report response. This example shows what contributed to the successful achievement of the milestones. This is an example of what a learning may be for the organization. For example, this intervention is successful when parents receive childcare and a meal at the time of the service, which relieves the burden and enables them to successfully complete the curriculum. Note that we have a sample report with fictitious responses on our website so that you can use that for guidance as you complete your report if you want more information on the type of information that we're looking for from you. The best advice we have to offer is that you again use your grant agreement as an outline, since that document really spells out what you intend to do during the grant term. In regard to the budget, we suggest that you take the approved budget from your grant agreement and use it as the guide to fill in your actual expenditures. As highlighted on this slide, if your approved budget was $20,000 for program services for year one, and your organization spent $18,000, please fill in $18,000 on the actual grant expenditures form. Please use the template provided to report your expenditures to date. In other words, the actual expenditures don't have to match exactly. If there's a significant deviation in your spending, you should likely be communicating that to your program officer before the report is due. Now I'm going to turn things over to Taryn Ford, who's going to talk about your communications partnership with the Foundation.
Thanks so much, Sarah. Sharing news of this important partnership between a grantee and the Foundation is a really easy way to maximize the impact of your work through strategic communications. We're here to work with you as you identify ways of making this information more publicly available. You should have received a memo from me with your grant agreement that outlines our hopes for partnering with us to communicate about your grant. Once your grant agreement has been finalized, we encourage you to start sharing the news by informing your staff and other constituents through appropriate communications channels. You can send out a news release to the media. We recommend sending emails to your stakeholders and staff, and of course your board of directors or trustees. We also love the idea of articles that you can publish in your community newsletters and local newspaper. And of course, we recommend sharing this information via social media. The memo that you received includes my contact information, and I'm best reached at tfort@coloradohealth.org. Myself and the communications team here at the Foundation are available to review any content before you send it out to ensure accuracy about the grant information and the Foundation. It's also helpful for us to know about these types of proactive communications that you're planning, because we're equally as excited to share the news of your good work through our contacts and channels. The Foundation, like many of you, has specific style guidelines for our content. When referencing the Foundation, we ask that you refer to us as the Colorado Health Foundation with a lowercase "the" preceding our name, unless, of course, the name begins a sentence or stands alone. We try not to use an acronym in a second reference, such as TCHF, and instead we refer to ourselves as the Foundation as long as it makes sense. sometimes grantees like to add our logo to an external communication, which we're more than pleased to do. You can request logo files from the communications team by sending your request to info@coloradohealth.org. Make sure to indicate how you plan to use the logo so we can send you the correct file type. Like many of you, the foundation uses email and social media to communicate about what's going on at the foundation, what we're engaged in. You're automatically going to be signed up to receive our emails moving forward, including our monthly e-newsletter called the Progress Report. You'll also receive regular emails about new funding opportunities when we release new blog posts and additional information about events that we're hosting across the state. We also actively engage in social media, which we use to communicate foundation and grantee news, as well as information about events that we're hosting, reports that we're releasing, and other fun content such as staff interaction, educational information, and tips about how to live a healthy lifestyle. We regularly use Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On the slide, you'll see our handles for Twitter and Instagram, and I recommend that you just give us a quick search on Facebook to find us. If you haven't already, please like or follow us, and we'll return the favor so we can effectively cross-promote each other's work. And finally, we often live stream and archive the live stream for most of our events. All of these archive streams can be viewed on our YouTube page. And finally, I like to offer a few basic communications resources that may be useful for you, for your development team, or those folks on your staff who are managing communications for your organization. The Communications Network is a national network that is very focused on providing networking opportunities, educational opportunities, events for those communications professionals who work in both the nonprofit and the philanthropic sectors. ComNet Denver is actually a local regional group that is an offshoot of Communications Network. It's a free local group based in Denver that you can Google and find more information about. Reagan Communications is a national group that offers conferences and very niche types of communications education, things like internal communications, executive communications. They're a great go-to resource for that type of thing. The Colorado Healthcare Communicators Group is a Denver-based group that is also a free group to join, and they offer regular educational events and networking opportunities. The Nonprofit Technology Network, or N10 as you may know it, offers lots of different resources to members for things like social media planning, campaign planning. There's lots of different training webinars, case studies, benchmark reports that they publish, and they also offer a really fantastic annual conference. The Knight Foundation specializes in funding innovative communications, and they also offer lots of different free resources on their website that may be useful to you. And if you don't already, I always recommend that anyone who's working in the communications space follow Beth Cantor. She is a known guru in the nonprofit marketing space and regularly provides directional content and resources for nonprofits through her online blog. She's particularly helpful to nonprofits who may not have a communications or marketing person on staff. And then finally, the Nonprofit Marketing Guide is a great resource that offers free templates, tools, lots of different webinars, and is managed by Kiwi LaRue Miller. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this back over to Sarah to review some frequently asked questions.
Thank you, Taryn. Finally, we'll review some frequently asked questions. Does a no-cost extension need to be completed for changes to milestones in our grant agreement? A change to a milestone in your grant agreement does not require a formal amendment request, but we do recommend that you stay in touch with your program officer and let them know of changes, particularly if those changes will impact the overall timeframe or the expected outcomes of the project. Can you give me an example of what type of program challenges we would document in a progress report? You might mention challenges such as hiring delays, trouble recruiting program participants, or a shift in your sources of funding. They could be expected or unexpected challenges that you've experienced during the period recovered by your grant. If there are funds left over, can we add some additional components to our project, and how do we seek approval for that? Talk to your program officer if you have funds left over. We will often work with you to extend the project so you're able to use the funds, but again, it depends on the circumstances. How long does it take to get approval for a grant amendment? If you provide all of the information needed in your amendment request, you can typically expect a response from the Foundation within 2 weeks. We'll let you know if that time frame is going to be significantly longer than that. Can we apply for additional funds to expand our existing program, and for how many years at a time? Talk to your program officer if you're interested in seeking additional funding for a current project or grant. All right, this concludes the Grantee Orientation webinar, and again, we encourage you to reach out to any of us with questions about the content that we covered today. Thank you for joining us as we work together to improve the health of all Coloradans.